Pens down, fingers off the keyboard, it's time to listen up. I'm Skelton-Price, the author of What's Left, and today I want to talk about describing a scene. I've seen a lot of people online talking about how to describe a scene, and it just feels like they're listing what's in the scene, or it feels flat, or it just feels like a lot of telling rather than showing. And I want to talk today about how I go about describing a scene, which you may or may not like the advice, and I would recommend picking up one of my books, having a read, and seeing if this is the type of description that you like. And if it is, you can adhere to my advice, and if it's not, I give you full permission to find another author where you prefer their descriptions and listening to them on how they do it. So for me, what I do is I pretend that I am the character. I am there. I am in the scene. I am in the moment. What is it that I notice? What is it that I notice about my surroundings? What is it that I notice going on internally? And what is it that I'm feeling? So for example, if my character is going for a walk and it's a sunny day, there's potential to say the sun was out, the gravel was gravelly, and the road was roady, and there were trees and birds singing. You can say that if you wanted to. Or you could go a little bit more in depth into the character and really feel out what the character is doing. So you could pretend that you're there on a sunny day, you're going for a walk, you step outside, what do you notice? You might notice the heat radiating off cars, hitting you in the face like a slap. You might notice the bright lights bouncing off buildings nearby, glaring into your eyes. This might cause a lot of pain. You might feel on your skin the burning sensation. You might feel like you're a piece of meat getting grilled. You might feel the stones, the burning hot stones on your feet, and that might burn you, and you might feel it boring a hole into your skin. You might notice birds chirping, and you might feel that calming sensation of the birds when, things are warm and it's hot, and that can just bring peace. Or you might hear the screeches and the loud gobbles of the birds that just drive your brain mentally insane. So it's looking at all the things that you will notice in your world. And while you're noticing all that, you might not notice the stranger across the street that's walking by. You might not notice anything going on behind you. You might not notice the cars 3 blocks away. You might not even notice the traffic unless you hear someone beeping their horn. That might jolt you. It's all about what you actually notice. Take yourself off for a walk, put yourself in a situation that is somewhat similar, and see what it is that you actually notice. Because when I walk down a street, I'm not looking around, taking in everything. I'm noticing how I feel. I might be really exhausted. I might be dragging my legs. I might be anxious about what's coming next. I might be stuck on an email that was sent to me that I don't know how to reply to. All these things can happen. So you can step outside, you can be like, wow, the sun's hitting me like a slap in the face, and the glare of the buildings is blinding my eyes, and the stones under my feet are boring holes into my skin. But my God, I cannot stop thinking about that email. That email, I just don't know how to reply to it. I'm not sure if it was friendly or if it was aggressive. It just seems in between. And then you stop noticing the world around you. And you can say that the beeping horns got quieter and the screeches from the birds got quieter, and the external world just seemed to disappear as your character remembered that email, and the steps that they took didn't feel like they were walking. It felt only like they were sitting at the desk writing the email. Then all of a sudden, they're in a park and they noticed the green grass and the kids playing on the swings, and they have no idea how they got there. They were so busy thinking about that email. They missed everything. The point of that is you don't want to be explaining every single detail. The reader doesn't need to know what the world looks like, especially if it's a contemporary novel. We know what outside looks like. They want to know, the reader wants to know what the internal world is like for the character. What did they notice? What did they feel? Readers want to feel as though they are the character, that they're in the story, and they're taking everything in as though they are the character. So if the character goes outside and it's a rainy day, they might feel the raindrops, they might feel cold, they might feel shivery, they might start to get a little bit sad thinking about the events that might not be there. They might see that their friend is not out on their daily walk that they usually see. They might not see the dogs playing in the yards, which makes them really sad. Why are they going out for a walk in the rain? Are they trying to clear their head of something? Is there something sticking to them? Do they have to go to an important event? Are they thinking about that important event? Are they feeling anxious? Are they feeling really tense? Can they feel the raindrops on them? Or are they so tense and so wrapped up in what's coming next that they don't even notice what the weather is like? They just walk out. Maybe they forgot a rain jacket, and then they arrive and someone says, "Oh my God, you're soaking wet." And they have a look and they're like, "Oh, I didn't notice." And they're like, "Are you serious? You didn't notice?" That's how I like to do it. I like to pretend that I'm there in the character, thinking about what it would feel like to be them, to be in that situation. And there is a situation in my book, What's Left, where they have to go and knock on neighbors' doors, and they're really anxious and they're really nervous because talking to people, it's scary. And it is a boiling hot summer's day, but they just don't notice the world around them. They only notice one house, the next house, then there's a gate phone they don't know how to use, and that's what they notice. So they don't actually notice the world around them. They aren't noticing what's happening next to them, what's happening behind them, what's happening in front of them. They only notice what it is that they have to focus on. The next step, the next point. Not necessarily the tree and the tree's color and the bird and the seat underneath the tree. They only notice their goal, what they need to do, and how the world around them affects them. Their obstacles, what's stopping them, what they like, what they don't like, that kind of thing. Everything else just sort of fades away. So when you describe setting, you want to be character driven in my mind. You want to know what the characters feel, what they want, what the obstacles are, what they struggle with, what, helps them feel more alive. Like if they really like wind and they feel a gust of wind, they might feel more alive. Rather than if it rains and they feel a bit drained of energy when it rains, then that will change how they are in the scene. You almost want to think of the setting as another character. It's not necessarily alive, it's not another person in the story, but it affects your characters in the same way, if not more, than the other characters in the story. They contain the obstacles, the setting, it changes constantly with weather and economics, and as we see now in life, small things that we think are small can build up and change. And that really affects us as people, and that will really affect your characters within the story. The butterfly effect, all of that we talk about in real life with us as real people, it affects your characters also, and it affects the story. So we want to be talking about the setting like it's another character. And when your main character is talking to another character, they might describe the whole thing, like hair color, eye color, face shape, what they're wearing, but they also might not. They might just notice the vibes. They might notice the feeling. They might walk up to another character and you'll say they noticed the vibe was off. They stared into their eyes, which looked slightly pinched, and this was said, blah, blah, blah. That's how you want to write about the setting. They walked out into the setting. They noticed the vibe was off. They noticed that the trees were slightly bent over, yet there was no wind. The sky had gone dark, and they could feel a darkness within their soul, so deep and powerful that it made them feel heavy. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm talking trash. Read my book. It's more thought through than what I am saying right now. So you want to describe it that way. And then in people's homes, you want to describe it kind of like it's their personality. You're describing a little bit of who they are and how they are, if things are run down, if things are not run down. In my book, there are two characters who live in the same house, this one. You can see Barbara drawn there, and then you can also see Geordie drawn there if you're looking at the video. And they're two very different characters. So when I talk about Geordie and introduce Geordie, I don't really talk about their surroundings. I don't really discuss what furniture they have or what decorations they have, because it's not important to Geordie. Geordie doesn't really care about the possessions. Whereas when I introduce Barbara and I introduce all Barbara's things, suddenly they have labels. They have designer labels, and it's all detailed and discussed. What label it is, what color it is, what the fabric feels like, all of that, because that's important to Barbara, and that is how she values her things and thinks about her things, is based on their label, where she got them from, how long she's had them, the quality of it, how it feels, whereas Geordie could sit on the nicest, fluffiest couch ever and just be like, okay, and then sit on a really crappy couch and be like, it's not as nice. Not really, not much note taken. So therefore that's not the focus when I talk about Geordie and when Geordie walks into a room, but it is the focus when Barbara walks into a room, because that is what that character focuses on. And that's how you want to play the setting. Each character will notice different things, just like each human being will notice different things. If you want to experiment, you can talk to your friends, people in writing groups, you can experiment with people you meet and ask them, if you're all in the same room, ask them what they notice about the room. Or if you all went to a movie, ask them what they noticed about the movie, and everyone, I bet, will say something different. There might be similarities in what they say, but everyone will say at least one thing that is different. And that's the same thing for your characters. They will be noticing different things about their settings. Some people will notice a lot of things. Some people will notice absolutely nothing. Some people will notice how soft a couch is. Some people will notice artwork on the walls. Some people will notice the vibes. Some people will notice the view. And it's just all different depending on what's important to the person and what is important to the character. And that is what you want to do. You want to know what's important to the character, especially if they have a goal. And then there might be some obstacles, like the goal is to go from one house to the other house, but there's like one house is in one apartment building, the other house is the other apartment building. The only way to get there is to jump across. Like, that's something that you would definitely notice if your goal is to get to the other apartment. You would notice the big gap and the drop and all of that. Whereas if your goal is to make a cup of tea, but there are no tea bags, then you're probably not going to notice the other buildings outside. You're probably not going to look at the drop and how big that fall is. You'll notice how long it takes to get to the kitchen, how easy it is to open a cupboard, if it's easy to find the tea bags, if it's easy to boil the water, if the kettle's broken. You'll just notice different things. And especially if you're in a setting, or if your main character's in a setting with another main character that they don't really get along with, they might not even notice the setting at all, and they're just going to notice the vibes of the person. Or if they're running away from someone, they might notice how smooth the ground is, if there are any obstacles, if they can just leap and bound, or if they have to really watch their stepping. That's something that they'll probably notice. They might notice how heavy or light their clothing is, how easy it is to run in that. If your character is a parent trying to parent a child, they might notice how many other people are around them, and they might feel really insecure and embarrassed and awkward about the things that they're saying to their child or disciplining their child. And that might be what they notice, rather than how high the roof is or how fancy the jewels are. So it really depends on the situation that character is in, who your character is, what they want, and what the obstacles are. And that is what they'll notice in the setting, and that is what you want to write. You want to write as though you are the character, and you want the audience to notice what the character notices. You don't necessarily need them to notice anything that your character doesn't notice. So pretend you are your character. Think about what you would feel. Think about what you would notice about your internal world and your external world, and that is how you want to describe and write your setting. If you want any more tips, you can check me out on my website or Substack or social media. You can follow me there and connect with me. I have a Linktree link down below, so you can go there and then find all of my links in one easy place. Also, leave a comment down below of how you like to write setting, and if you have a different kind of way of going about it, because I know every writer is different. That's just the way I like to write setting. But everyone is different, and there is a market and an audience out there for all different types of writing. So do let me know what you prefer and what you like. And if you've read my book, What's Left, let me know if you think my description of how I write setting is accurate or not, or what you think I can improve on. You can pick up your pens and put your fingers back on the keyboard. I'll talk to you later.